Hi everyone, it's Christian from MacDon. We're here with a FD2 and a John Deere X9. I promise it really is an X9. Now you may have heard that you cannot put a MacDon header on a John Deere X9 combine. We're here to show you today that it is 100% possible, and we also have full integration with all the John Deere controls. No extra harnesses, anything like that to run. We're going to run this whole header straight from the cab with no extra controls. So over here is your pretty much standard multi-coupler. So it's got your hydraulics for your reel as well as your electrical connection. Latching system down there at the bottom with pins, very similar to what we've had for many years with John Deere. Propeller shaft, single-sided hookup, hooks up just like all of our headers do. We only require one shaft on one side of the combine. Some of the things that are unique to the X9 model. First off, the transition frame right here. You can see that it's marked specifically on it for X9. The X9 has a very wide feeder house, so it requires its own transition frame. So if you're going to convert from one brand to another, that's part of what you will need. Another unique component is over here on the back side of the float module. There is a header controller. So for us to have full control over all of our features and options, we require this module to communicate with the combine. And we're going to go through some of the setup in the monitor. Now this is something you'll have to do the first time you hook up your new or used header to your combine for the first time. So we need to tell the combine some of the features that we have, and we'll also go through some of our presets. All of this information that I'm going to go through is available in your operator's manual.
Your owner's manual can be found in a compartment on the back of your header. If you don't have a physical copy, you can find a digital copy at MacDon.com. Click on Support, then Owner's Manuals, then select your product type.
So from the main screen, we're going to go into header setup. So on our monitor, we've got a header button down here at the bottom. So we press that. This brings up our header parameters. So we need to make sure that some of this is set up correctly. So we want to make sure that this says hinged draper type, and then this will be the size of your working width of your header. So this is a 50-foot header, so it's already set correctly. So hinged draper, 50 foot, that's our first step. So the next thing we're going to go to is our auto controls. So we touch that, brings up a new menu here. And here we want to make sure that we've got our features turned on and off correctly. So we want to make sure that height resume, height sensing, lateral tilt is enabled. All right, your resume preferences. So these are what are suggested. So auto reel speed, we'll turn that on. Fore aft resume, we'll turn that on, and reel position resume. When it's on, we're going to leave the auto belt speed off. We can now X out of this menu. In your operator's manual, there is a full list of settings and recommendations for all the different parameters. Now for your header sensitivity, some of this is going to change based on the software revision of your header. So we have actual software that goes into the header. We have recommendations for what these settings are. So these settings can be anywhere between 10 and 60. So you can drag that up to wherever you want. So we'll set this at 40. We'll set this one as 40 well, just as a starting point. These you can experiment in the field with what works best for you, but the recommendation is between 10 and 60. Once we have the height sensitivity and the tilt sensitivity set where we want, at least initially, then we'll X out of this screen. At this point now, the combine is configured enough that we could go ahead and perform a header calibration so that the combine could learn all the sensor voltages and positions for our auto header and our reel position and things like that. Refer to your operator's manual for the calibration procedure for your combine. When you're performing your header calibrations, we do suggest that you do the feeder house tilt calibration before the header calibration.
Now's the time to calibrate the header with the combine. This will take approximately 3 to 5 minutes.
So now that we've got the base adjustments set up in the combine, now we're going to go through and we're going to do some customization for our GSL presets. So what we can is we've got some customability around here, and you can set some of these buttons to perform some of the different functions. It's up to you to decide buttons 1, 2, 3 what you want them to do, we'll just go through some of the standard, more common presets. Okay, with the key on, we're going to press the header button down below the display, and we're going to unlock our controls. So our lock button is lit up. Now we're going to unlock it. When we unlock it, we get a pop-up screen here, and now we can make some changes here based on what we want these different buttons to perform. So we've got customability for these A, B, C buttons, as well as the D and the E. So we have some customability. Custom setup. We have the ability to do some custom setup on this screen here, and we can decide what features we want, buttons A, B, C, and D. So these are going to correspond to your buttons on the back side of your GSL, and we can determine what they are. So it's up to you to decide. It's a user preference what you want the different buttons to do. We're just going to go through some of the basic settings. So you don't necessarily have to set this up this way. If you want, you can choose whichever button you want for whatever feature. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to map the A button over here. So when I press on the display, it now gives me a selection here of what I want to do. So I'm going to map this to a header control, and I'm going to map this to wing leveling. So wing leveling is header tilt. So that's the John Deere terminology, but we're going to use it for header tilt position. So now you can see that it's changed in my display. We'll come back later on and we'll map some of these other controls. For right now, we'd also like to talk about ContourMax. So your ContourMax is again also fully integrated into this setup here. So if we go back to our home screen, hit the header page and select gauge wheels, and now we can control our gauge wheel position up and down with these buttons. So press the button down, I can position it wherever I like. We can also do this off of the GSL. So if I go into unlock, so I'm going to make my gauge wheel position here D. So now I can select through the different parameters here, header, and I'm going to select gauge wheel height. And now I can use the buttons on the GSL to raise and lower my contour wheels. All the way up, all the way down, or anywhere in between, wherever is our desired position to achieve our desired stubble height. All right, our third option for our ContourMax wheels is we can also map it to these buttons on the side here, these 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we unlock this function, all right, so position, I'm going to make position 2 be my contour wheels. So again, this is the same way we did it on our GSL and on our screen. Select gauge wheel, and now we can select up and down with these buttons as well. So you've got control over the customization if you want to control it off of the console or the GSL. It's all user preference. So earlier we mapped button A on the back of the GSL, and we made that our wing leveling, which would be the header tilt feature. So now that we've got that set up, the button A is a momentary contact. So if we press it once, we've got header fore aft. We press it again, now we've got header tilt. So you don't have to hold the button A with your fore and aft. You're basically toggling back and forth from fore aft, header tilt. Next we'll talk about draper speed. We can control the draper speed as well through our native controls here. And I'm going to map this to a couple of buttons on the GSL. So again, just like we did before, so we unlock. So now when I engage the header, I can control the speed with the buttons on the back of my GSL. All right, so there you have it. Header tilt, real fore aft, ContourMax, side draper speed, all adjustable right from your GSL. Customize it however you like, and you're good to go.